The storm outside screamed like a wild beast, tearing across the frozen land with ice-filled wind. Inside the small human outpost, Sergeant Ryan Cole tightened the thermal seals on the window. He had been alone here for weeks. No visitors, no messages, no signs of life in the dead zone. Only cold, silence, and survival. Then it happened. A knock, 3 soft knocks on the heavy steel door. Weak, like someone was barely strong enough to tap. Ryan froze. He turned slowly, not trusting his ears. The storm was loud, but this sound was real. He wasn't imagining it. He reached for his plasma sidearm, heart racing. No one should be here. The nearest patrol base was hundreds of miles away. Maybe it was a broken drone blown by the storm, or worse, a trap. He stepped closer, boots. Crunching on the frost-covered floor, another knock came. Even softer this time. Ryan quickly unsealed the inner lock and pulled the door open with a hard push. The wind roared in, slamming into his face. But what stood outside made his breath catch. A girl, not human. She was small, maybe 5 feet, wrapped in rags and metal scraps. Her silver skin nearly blue from the cold. Her large violet eyes blinked. Slowly, icy wind tore through her white hair. She didn't speak. Her lips were cracked, trembling in her hand. She held a tiny paper, wet, almost torn apart by the storm. She raised it and pointed. Ryan took it carefully. The words on it were written in shaky ink. Barely readable, but they were clear enough. "Warm me," Ryan stared at her. She was shaking badly, her knees buckling. He looked past her. No tracks. No ship, no transport. Just miles of snow and death behind her. She shouldn't be alive. She started to fall forward. He dropped the paper, caught her in his arms, and slammed the door shut with his elbow. The heater inside struggled to push back the cold, but Ryan moved fast. He pulled off her frozen rags and wrapped her in the emergency thermal blanket from the wall. Her skin was ice. She didn't resist, didn't fight, just looked at him like she was fading. He dragged a padded chair closer to the fire core and laid her there gently. Her breathing was slow, shallow. He had seen frostbite before, but not like this. Her limbs looked almost crystallized. "Hang on," he muttered, grabbing a hot pack and pressing it to her chest under the blanket. Still no words, just those eyes, alien but not cruel, just scared. The outpost sensors beeped, outside temperature dropping again, -70 degrees. Cursed and threw more fuel into the fire core. She made a faint sound, not a word, more like a whimper. He turned quickly. Her hand moved under the blanket. She was pointing to the window. Ryan looked, nothing but white. "Someone following you?" he asked. She blinked once, then again, a yes. His heart jumped. He moved to the console and checked the radar. No signs. He switched to thermal, still nothing. He ran back to her. "How far?" No answer. She was drifting again. He set up the portable medkit, scanned her. The device glitched, then showed a warning. It's unknown species. Core temp. 24 degrees Celsius, critical. That was impossible. Humans would be dead at that number, but she wasn't human. He pulled another blanket over her. The fire hissed louder. For a second, her skin flickered with faint lines, glowing symbols too fast to read. Like something inside her was reacting to heat. "What are you?" he whispered. She blinked slowly again. Her lips moved a little. He leaned closer. Her voice was rough, broken, barely a breath. "Don't let them." Take me, his chest tightened. He had heard fear before. In war. In cries of wounded friends. This was different. This was pure terror. Ryan checked his gun, then bolted the door tight. No one was getting in. Not tonight. She closed her eyes. Finally. Resting, Ryan didn't sleep. He sat by the door, rifle across his lap. Watching the fire and the girl who came from the storm, wondering who she really was and who was coming next. The fire crackled louder than before, burning hotter than it should. Ryan sat across from the strange girl, staring at the rising heat levels on his monitor. The temperature inside the outpost had gone from cold to almost too warm, and it wasn't because of the heater. Something else was changing the air, making it heavier, pulsing like a living thing. She still hadn't moved much. Her eyes stayed half open, locked on the flames, like they were speaking to her in a language only she could hear. Ryan stood slowly and walked to the control panel. He checked the systems again. The heater was running at normal output, but the energy spikes were rising, strange random bursts of power coming from nowhere. He tapped the screen, but the numbers kept climbing. He turned back toward her. Her skin shimmered slightly, like faint symbols were glowing just under the surface. They looked like veins of light, moving slowly, pulsing with the fire's rhythm. "What the hell are you?" he whispered. She turned her head weakly and looked straight at him.
Ow.
This time her lips parted, but she didn't speak. Instead, her hand reached out and pointed at the flame again. Ryan stepped closer. The fire suddenly roared up. Taller, hotter for just 1 second, he jumped back and raised his weapon by instinct, but she didn't move.
Ow.
Her body trembled, and the glow beneath her skin faded again. He lowered his rifle, heart pounding. "Are you doing that?" No answer, just that same tired gaze. The room fell into silence again. Ryan walked back to her and placed a fresh water pack in her hand. She didn't drink at first, then slowly lifted it with both hands and sipped. Outside, the storm began to ease. The wind softened, but that didn't bring comfort. Something felt wrong, too quiet. Ryan went to check the comm tower. As he approached the console, he froze. The screen was dark. He pressed buttons, reset the system, tried everything. Nothing worked. It was like the tower was frozen from inside. He opened the panel and gasped. The wires were covered in a thin layer of frost. From the inside out, that wasn't possible. He grabbed a scanner and ran it along the wall. The frost was spreading behind the metal, through the circuits. Like the cold was alive and crawling. Ryan turned around fast and stared. At the girl, her body was still warm now. She was breathing better. But outside, the snow began falling in perfect spirals. Unnaturally smooth. As if being controlled by something just above, he grabbed his binoculars and looked out through the observation slit. Nothing at first. Then something shimmered in the far distance, a blinking red dot floating in the white haze. A drone dot. Alien design, not friendly. He rushed back to her. "Is that them? Are they tracking you?" Her eyes opened wide this time. She nodded slowly. "How long do we have?" She struggled to sit up. Her hand pressed against her chest, and a small panel of glowing light formed for just a second on. Her skin then vanished. Ryan stared, stunned. She looked at him and said, voice barely a whisper, "They don't knock like I did." He grabbed his gun, checked the battery, and threw more fuel into the fire. "Then we better be ready when they break the door." She stood with his help, still weak, but stronger than before. Her bare feet stepped carefully across the warm floor. She walked to the fire, knelt beside it, and pressed her hands forward. The flame flared again, bigger than ever. But this time it didn't scare Ryan. It comforted him, because now he knew. Something strange was happening, but she wasn't helpless. Was dangerous on someone out there? Was desperate to bring her back live? Or dead? Ryan placed the med scanner against the girl's neck again, watching the readings scroll by in bright blue light. He had run the scan 4 times already. The results made no sense. Her core temperature had risen to stable levels, but her biology didn't match any known species in the Alliance database. It was like she wasn't just unknown, she was impossible. The scanner beeped again, flashing red. Warning: unidentified organism. Partial synthetic. Detected synthetic. Ryan leaned closer. The skin, though soft and smooth, had a faint shimmer beneath the surface, like thin strands of silver light tracing through her veins. It wasn't just a trick of the light. Something artificial was inside her. She looked at him, her eyes calm now, glowing slightly violet in the dim room. She didn't flinch as he scanned her arms. She trusted him, even if she barely knew. That bothered him more than it should have. He pulled out a thermal bandage and wrapped her left arm. A piece of her sleeve slipped down, revealing what looked like a burn, but it wasn't burned. It was a mark, a glowing symbol, etched directly into her skin like living circuitry. It pulsed softly. Ryan asked, "What is this?" She looked down at the mark. Her voice came out quiet, soft, broken. "That's my tag." He repeated. She nodded slowly. "They made me in a lab?" Ryan stiffened. "Made you?" Her lips pressed together, and she nodded again. I was never born. I was built." That sentence hung in the air like a blade. Ryan didn't speak for a while. He sat back, staring at her. Everything made sense now. Her strange body heat, her reaction to the fire, the symbols, the way her skin pulsed under stress. She wasn't just alien. She was engineered, and someone powerful had created her. She reached into the blanket and pulled something out, a small metal chip with a broken edge. She handed it to Ryan with shaky fingers. It looked like a data shard, half-cracked. On it, faint writing was burned in. "Unit 7B discarded." Ryan clenched the chip in his fist. "Why did they discard you?" "They said I failed. Couldn't reach the final phase. Too emotional, too slow to adapt." She looked away, eyes dimming. "They said I was a mistake." Ryan wanted to punch something. Instead, he breathed slowly and placed the chip down on the table. "You walked through that storm? You survived sub-zero wind. You fought off death with just a fire and willpower. That's not failure." She looked at him again. Her lips trembled, but this time, not from cold. "You didn't leave me out there," she whispered. "No," he said, standing up. "And I won't." Suddenly, the alarm system buzzed to life. Lights flashed red near the roof. Ryan grabbed his rifle and looked at the screen. A new heat signature was showing outside, moving fast. It's dropping from orbit. No ID code. No signal. She stood to, clutching the wall for balance. "They found me," she said, her voice steady now. "They always find me." Ryan stared at the monitor. The object hit the ground far from the outpost, but was moving closer. It wasn't a ship. It was small, likely a drop pod. "A retrieval unit. They don't care if I live," she added. "They just want the tech back." Ryan looked at her. "Then they'll be disappointed because they're not getting anything." She walked over to him. Her hands were still wrapped in bandages, but they glowed faintly from inside. She looked up at him and said something he didn't expect. "Should run." "I bring danger. I've seen danger," he replied. "You're not it." She blinked, and something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe even hope. Ryan loaded his rifle, checked the charge, and sealed the door. The wind outside had stopped. The snow had settled. But the real storm was just beginning, and he wasn't going to face it alone. Not anymore. The silence outside was unnatural. No wind, no snow, no movement. Ryan stood near the window, staring at the flat white landscape through narrow slits in the wall. The storm had stopped too suddenly. Not a single gust, not a single sound. It was the kind of silence that warned of something hidden, something waiting. He adjusted the scope on his rifle and scanned the horizon. Nothing but deep inside. Felt it the same weight he used to feel before a battlefield ambush behind him. The girl stood perfectly still, eyes glowing brighter now, focused on something far away. Her head turned slowly, like she was listening to something only she could hear. "They're close," said quietly. Ryan looked back at her. "How do you know?" "They don't need ships to find me. They use pulse readers. If I'm warm, they lock on." He narrowed his eyes. "So the fire helped you survive, but it also lit up your signal?" She nodded. "Every moment I live, they get closer." He pulled up the heat map from the security grid. Something flickered just for a second. A fast blur passed near sensor. 4. Then another. No clear shape. It's just a distortion, like heat bending the air cloaked. He muttered. "They're using active camo." The girl closed her eyes. "They will scan first. They will not attack unless they confirm my position." Ryan paced the room. "No, we have a few minutes." She stepped forward. "We should use them to leave." He shook his head. "Not happening." Her voice grew sharper. "You don't understand what they'll do. They're not soldiers. They're retrieval units. They don't ask questions. They don't care about who stands in the way. I've dealt with machines." Ryan replied. "But they've never dealt with me." She stared at him, confused. "Why are you helping me?" Ryan checked the ammo on his sidearm and said, "Without turning, because you knocked on my door asking to be warm, not to be saved. That means you still believe someone would care." "That's rare." She blinked slowly, the glow in her eyes. Softening then, she whispered, "Hide what?" "No, hide." "They're scanning the room." He didn't ask questions, pulled her behind the metal core furnace and dropped to one knee. In that moment, the lights in the outpost dimmed. Slightly, no alarms, no sounds. But Ryan felt something pass through his skull like a wave. A chill ran down his spine. The girl curled into herself, her hands glowing softly again. "They're searching my code pattern." She whispered. He held his breath outside. The snow started moving. Not from wind, from motion, something heavy. Something, with weight and speed, was moving in wide circles around the outpost, making no sound. Ryan peeked through the cracks. A shadow passed quickly, tall, thin, and featureless. It moved like a ghost, but left behind deep footprints that sank into the frozen earth. "They sent a spectral drone," the girl said, voice barely audible. "It can phase through walls if it gets close enough to lock on." Ryan's grip tightened. Around the rifle, the girl stood up, trembling, and pressed her palm to the floor. A pulse of faint blue energy spread out like waves in a pond. "What are you doing?" "Changing my frequency," she replied. "If I shift fast enough, they lose my trace for a few seconds." Ryan watched the lines of light wrap around her arms and neck. She looked stronger now, less frozen, more alive, but not human. And outside, the shadow paused, then turned, and started walking straight toward the door. "They're coming anyway," Ryan growled. "Guess they don't care about stealth now." The girl looked at him and said something that chilled his blood. "Ow." "They've decided this whole place is compromised. They'll erase everything, even you." Ryan smiled, cold and sharp. "Then we'll make damn sure they regret it." The steel door bent inward with a slow groan. Ryan stood in front of it, rifle aimed, hand steady. Behind him, the girl's skin began to shimmer again, lines of light crawling across her arms like glowing vines. The outpost shook under their feet, dust drifting from the ceiling. Something massive was on the other side. Ryan didn't flinch. His boots were firm on the floor. His eyes locked on the door as it creaked louder, the metal groaning like it was being pulled apart by fingers colder than death. Then the wall beside the door cracked, not broken by force, melted. The steel hissed, turned black, and peeled away, like wet paper. Through the opening, a creature stepped in, tall, thin, pale, and smooth like ice carved into a human shape. No eyes, no face, just a blank mask that shimmered with blue light. It didn't speak. It didn't even look at Ryan. Its attention was fixed on her. The girl stood, still wrapped in the soldier's thermal blanket, but her expression had changed. No longer frightened, no longer silent. Her body hummed with energy, skin pulsing. Like it held a storm inside. Ryan stepped in front of her. "You want her? You go through me." The thing paused, then tilted its head like a curious beast. Ryan fired the plasma round, hit the creature's chest, but instead of burning, energy froze midair, trapped in a cloud of ice before it could land. The projectile shattered, falling in tiny snowflakes. The creature moved fast. Ryan barely dodged. The thing reached out, but the girl shouted. A burst of fire erupted from her hand, blasting the wall and filling the room with heat. The thing recoiled, its mask turning red. Ryan rolled, grabbed a second charge from his belt and slammed it into his rifle. He shouted, "Flamethrower mode." Now the weapon clicked and roared to life. Flames spat forward, lighting up the room. Creature stumbled back, pieces of its skin cracking like glass under the heat behind him. The girl's arms lifted again. Her voice, though soft, had power now. She spoke a word in a language Ryan didn't know, and the fire responded, growing taller, wider. Surrounding them both, the first drone hissed and dissolved into vapor, but outside more were coming. Ryan grabbed her hand. "We can't stay here, bunker." Now they ran together through the hallway, past shaking walls and flashing lights. As they reached the steel trap door in the floor, another drone crashed through the sidewall behind them. It lunged forward, arms stretched like blades. Ryan kicked the door open and pushed her down the ladder. She landed hard but rolled into cover. He jumped after her, fired one last shot upward, and slammed the hatch shut. The drone's blade scraped across the metal, but didn't pierce it. Silence returned for one long moment. Only their breathing filled the darkness below. Ryan turned. On the emergency lights? The bunker was small, barely enough space for two, but it was reinforced with heat shielding. He placed his rifle on the bench and knelt beside her. "You all right?" She nodded. Her body glowed even brighter now. Her hands hovered above her chest, and strange sparks danced between her fingers. "They won't stop," she said. "This is a retrieval squad. They'll keep sending units until I'm gone, or until they are," Ryan said. She looked at him like he was mad. "You don't know what they are? I was built by the same minds that created them. They don't feel pain. They don't fear fire. They just complete the mission." Ryan leaned closer. "And what are you?" "A mission that escaped." She looked away. "Not escaped," she whispered. "I was released. Abandoned. They threw me out like broken gear. Not worth fixing." Ryan stared at her for a moment, then gently reached out and lifted her hand. "It was warm, alive. Doesn't feel broken to me," he said. "Feels like someone worth saving." She stared at their hands, and for the first time, she smiled only for a second. Because above them, the metal ceiling thumped. The hunt wasn't over, not yet. The small underground bunker shook again, dust drifting from the ceiling. Ryan braced himself against the wall, staring up at the trapdoor above. The sound was faint now, distant footsteps, careful and slow, like the hunters above were searching every inch of the outpost for signs of life beside him. The girl sat on a crate, knees pulled close, hands glowing softly. Her body was steadier now, no longer trembling from cold. The fire had done more than warm her. It had awakened something hidden deep inside, and knelt beside her, checking his rifle. "They haven't found the hatch yet. It buys us time." She didn't answer right away. Her eyes were focused on the corner of the bunker where the heater buzzed quietly. Warm air swirled around them, and for once, the silence didn't feel threatening. After a while, she finally spoke. "I used to think heat was just energy, something to survive with. But now, I think it's more than that." He looked at her, waiting. She continued, "When I was in the lab, they tested me with ice-cold pressure, deep vacuum. I adapted to it. They said I was perfect for silent environments, no noise, no warmth. But I always hated it. I didn't know why, not then. I just wanted something to touch me. Something soft. Something alive." Ryan listened. Quietly, she looked at him now. "Then I came here, and you let me in. You gave me fire, food, your coat, even your bed while you slept on the floor. That wasn't protocol. That was kindness." He smiled faintly. "Didn't feel like kindness. Felt like the right thing. Not everyone does the right thing," she said. "Most would have left me out there to die." Ryan leaned back against the steel wall and exhaled. "I've been a soldier too long. Seen too many things. But you, whatever you are, you didn't ask for any of this. You were made, then thrown away. I'm tired of good people being treated like garbage just because they don't fit someone's system." She stared at him, then reached out carefully, placing her hand on his. It was warm, almost hot now. Her skin pulsed gently, light. "Moving just beneath the surface, my temperature stabilizes faster near you," she said. "Your touch strengthens my core field. I think my design responds to human heat more than I was told. Or maybe it's just..." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You saying I'm some kind of walking generator?" She gave a small laugh, soft. "Barely there, but real no," she said. "I'm saying you're more than a heat source. You're the first person I've met who didn't see me as a tool." The moment hung between them. Ryan looked into her glowing eyes. "Then maybe you're more than a weapon." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "If I survive this, I want to see the stars. Not from a lab window, but with my own eyes. Under a real sky you will," he promised. We survived the next hour. The floor vibrated again this time. It wasn't footsteps, it was heavier. She stood quickly. "They've brought the decimator. A drone that doesn't scan. Just destroys everything until the target is confirmed dead." Ryan's face hardened. "Then we need to move." She looked around the small bunker. "There's a tunnel. hidden under the crate behind me. I didn't say earlier because I wasn't sure I'd make it. He pulled the crate aside. Underneath, a narrow shaft led downward. Into darkness, he looked at her. Where does it go? Old maintenance path. It leads to the geothermal vents. The heat down there blocks tracking. If we make it through, we reach the open plains. Ryan grabbed supplies and slung his rifle. Then we move fast. No more hiding. You ready? She took his hand again. I am, if you stay close. Their fingers locked. And they stepped into the tunnel together, one light leading another through the dark, leaving behind the fire that had started it all above them. The bunker shook again. Harder than before, but they were already Ganand this time. They had more than fire, they had trust. The tunnel stretched for miles beneath the ice. The walls were rough, carved long ago by machines no one remembered. Warm mist drifted through narrow vents, rising from the geothermal core deep below. Ryan and the girl moved through the dark, guided by the soft glow pulsing from her skin. Each step echoed with quiet purpose. Her body no longer trembled. Her limbs no longer felt fragile. She walked with balance now, steady and aware. The fire that once warmed her had taken root inside her chest. She was more than just alive. She was evolving. We're close, she said. The exit is just ahead. The surface should be clear if the heat clouds are still rising. Ryan checked the scanner. No movement above. They haven't found this route. We have one chance. They stepped out of the tunnel into a wide-open cave. A broken wall revealed. The sky above, a stormless night filled with stars. The snow outside was untouched. The wind was calm again. Steam rose from the earth in thick streams. Hiding them like nature's own protection, the girl stepped into the light of the moon. Her silver hair shimmered. Her body reflected a quiet power, not just from her creators, but from what she had chosen to become. I don't feel hunted anymore, she whispered. Ryan joined her. They'll keep looking, but they won't find what they expect. You're not who you were when you arrived at that door. She looked at him, eyes soft. You changed me. You didn't run. You didn't see a tool. You saw someone who wanted to live. I saw someone worth the risk. He replied. She held out her hand, palm open. A small flame appeared in the center. Not wild, not dangerous, but warm and calm. This power was meant to be controlled by others, she said. But now I decide where it burns. Ryan smiled. Then light it where you want. And let them feel the heat. If they ever come close again. They stood in silence for a moment, the flame between them glowing brighter. Then a distant hum broke the stillness. Ryan turned fast, raising his rifle. The scanner blinked once, then went dark. Something was approaching fast. But not from above. A dark shape leapt out from behind the rocks. But it wasn't a drone. It was a human shuttle. Painted black, marked with an old rebellion symbol. The ramp dropped open to rebels, stepped out, weapons lowered. You're the one who sent the distress ping from the outpost? One of them asked Ryan. He nodded. I sent it after the first drone attack. We need extraction and shelter for her. The rebel looked at the girl. His eyes widened. Is that what I think it is? She's not a weapon anymore, Ryan said. She's a survivor. And she's with me now. The girl stepped forward, her flame still dancing in her hand. Will your people try to take me too? She asked calmly. The rebel shook his head. No, not if you walk in on your own terms. She looked back at Ryan. Waiting, he reached out his hand. Come with me. Let's write the rest of your story somewhere safe. Somewhere warm. She took his hand. They walked up the ramp together as the shuttle lifted into the sky. The first rays of morning touched the snow below, and the place where a frozen girl once knocked with trembling hands was now silent but far above. Flying toward freedom, a new flame burned bright, and this time it would never go out.